Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Whiskey with Ivy. A lot has happened in the past week, so I have a lot of stories for you. We've lost another good Singapore son. It really saddens me and breaks my heart whenever I read about somebody dying, but especially when somebody dies at a game called war. You know, war is about death. We do not need to promote war nowadays. My generation of baby boomers tried to eliminate war after the Second World War. We had a motto called "Make love, not war." National service is good because it means you serve the nation. But it's not just serving the nation in being trained to go to war to kill people. I think Singapore should relook at national service where all boys and girls even are trained to give service to the nation. You should have people who are trained as nurses, as doctors, as carers, as cleaners, but they must all be trained to do their job well. But what worries me more, I read about Joan Pereira. Now, this is nothing against Joan Pereira, but she is on the Ministry of Defence Committee also. And she said she suggested using digital tools and online portals so that NS men could be trained more frequently. Is she an expert on war? And then she sits also on the Government Parliamentary Committee for Health. What I worry about is people putting people into so many committees when they're not trained for it. War is promoted by evil men who wants to sell you bombs and guns. And we Asian bloody monkeys are buying their bombs and guns and shooting at each other. It is time for us to stop this promotion of war. So, we have another breach and the minister has apologized. But what I am concerned about is the figures that are mentioned. There were 14,200 individuals with HIV, among whom were 5,400 Singaporeans and 8,800 foreigners, most of whom are no longer in Singapore. Did they do a medical checkup when they came into Singapore? Or did they catch AIDS when they worked in Singapore? We should look at that area rather than worry about the breach. You know, my mates have to go for a medical checkup every 6 months, but my male foreign workers do not have to. You know, we are so concerned about maids getting pregnant, but the men who work here, they don't have to have a medical checkup. And especially those white men, you know, who work in those top jobs, I'd like you all to find out, do they go for a medical checkup? Or do we only torture our women, especially Asian women? Man fined after dog suffers and dies. You know, instead of fining the man, the AVA should find out why he didn't send the dog to the vet. A vet is not cheap, okay? I spent thousands of dollars when the dog is sick. Many years ago, when I was a youngster, there was what we call primary production department. They had cheap veterinary service. We have now no more cheap veterinary service. I suggest the AVA start cheap polyclinic for dogs like we have cheap polyclinics for humans. And the gentleman from SPCA, Dr. Jaispal Singh, has stated it. So why don't we set up some cheap polyclinics so that people who are not so rich can still afford to love their pets and give them medical care. The smart way of fighting food waste. Look at the reality. When you go to a dinner, they pile you with so much food. Why? They have to justify the cost of charging you a few $1,000s for a dinner table. At this stage of my life, when I go to a dinner, I cannot eat the same amount that I ate 20 years ago or 30 years ago, but they still give me the same portion. They still give the man next to me the same portion. Why don't the hotels think of having a small portion and a large portion? And why don't the hotels look at what is always left on the table? Why don't they pack it into small boxes and give it to the customers to take home to eat the next day? We should look at how to change the system and not just try to tell people not to waste food and what to do with food waste. Look at the whole process. Change it. Huge tuition industry needs closer scrutiny from MOE and parents. There are currently 600 tuition companies registered with MOE, but registration is not necessarily a mark of quality. And the tuition sector remains unregulated. Why do we have this huge tuition industry which is not regulated? Are our classes too big? Are the kids not paying attention? Are the teachers not strict enough? Why? The tuition sector needs to be looked at. Why is there such a big need for tuition? Want to know why Singapore is so important to the world and does so well? Look at this article. Even the birds of the world land here. We are in the East Asian Australasian Flyway, the largest of the 5 major flyways around the world. And all the birds from the 22 countries in the regions of Southeast Asia, North America and Northeast Asia all fly here. When birds come here, what do we have to do? We have to make sure that they're looked after, they have clean water, they have food, and they have a safe place. They're not shot at and killed. And Jurong Bird Park did a very good job. First zoo to breed endangered bird. Now this is the good things that we are doing right. Keep doing it. PM launches bicentennial, says Singapore always a work in progress. Yes, he is right. We are always a work in progress and history is always important so that people know what happened in the past and what's happening as we go forward. But history must be written with truth. The good, the bad and the ugly must be told. Otherwise, if you just tell your story and not the truth, it becomes just a story. Record passenger haul for Changi Airport. 65 million people came through our airport, but only 13 million, I think, come out. We must find out why don't the rest come out. What do we have to do to attract them to come out so that they will spend more money in Singapore? Over 18,500 lifts to be upgraded in 10 years. Once again, look at how we are building HDB flats and then only with passenger lifts, and everybody is putting the cement and stones and bringing it up, and by the time the people move in, the lifts are broken. It's not about upgrading lifts, it's about putting in some service lifts to carry heavy things. Jailed for choking wife, punching stepdaughter, 17 nabbed for smuggling duty unpaid cigarettes, 3 unlicensed remittance businesses busted, and passenger misses her stop, blocks bus for 20 minutes. What is happening to my country? Is it becoming Sin City, or are we letting in too many pigs? As we head into the year of the pig, may I suggest that we all take a stop and think of whether we are pigs or whether we are humans. Thank you for watching Coffee and Whiskey with Ivy again. Do take some time to ponder on the topics that I have discussed today. Have a great week ahead. Remember to subscribe.